steady handstand. However, on the bottom, he went just past the vertical position.
Now, the handstands don't have the high DD. This is about the highest you get for it, 2.6.
That's right, Ted. We can see here it's a nice control off the start, and he's in an excellent position. And when he lines up for the water, he just washes by the vertical just a little bit.
A couple of sevens there, 3 sevens as a matter of fact, and the rest 6.5s from the judges for David Bedard. That'll hold him in second place, a sort of a wry little grin there. But Bill Hayes is comfortably out in front, and he has another great big one here. This dive has a degree of difficulty of 3.2. If he can get 6s for this, he probably wouldn't even have to do his last dive. He'd be so far in front.
A great inward 3.5, Ted. That was just wonderful. He ripped the entry. He has lots of room on the dive. He's really in control of this competition.
I think his entries are great. They have been all the way through, haven't they?
Oh, he's just been diving superbly. We can see here he's right in control of the dive, a nice position in the air, and look at the room he has to line up, and almost no splash again.
And the judges really like that one. Look at those 8s that come up. 74.88 points for the dive. Oh, he's way out in front, about 80 points. 10.65. This is combined with the points accrued during the preliminaries. He's 80 points in front of David Bedard, who still has that big lead on Fournier for third place. Last round of dives, and the placements are pretty well assured before we even have this part of the competition. But this has been quite a story. 19-year-old Tommy McLeod, an English major at the Lakehead, diving for Thunder Bay, and Mitch has really done a job with those people up there, hasn't he?
He certainly is doing a great job with his divers. Tommy's going to be doing a back 1.5 with 2.5 twists. And a wonderful dive for Tommy. He'll be so pleased with that. He had a rip entry on the bottom. He can really nail his dives.
He has not given in to the pressure at all.
No, we see here he has a strong jump and gets right into the twist and is quite tight in the air and has lots of time to line up for that rip entry. It's very important to have a long line up on the bottom.
Well, those marks should be very, very satisfying to him, and there's his coach and his teammate, Mary DePero, over there saying, nice going to Tommy. He finished up with a very, very good effort. Third place has been Bruno Fournier's spot in this competition since about the halfway mark. He is solidly in third, but too far behind Bedard to move up into second.
Yes, and he'll be doing an arm stand triple somersault. He'll go forward from the tower into a somersault.
There's a high degree of difficulty for an arm stand dive, 2.8.
It was a nice dive on top. However, he let the bottom go. He just didn't line up totally in the vertical position.
See that sort of pained look, not from being hurt, but from being upset with himself.
He has a very sturdy arm stand, but he allows himself to fall too far forward before he gets into the tuck. So when he goes to line up on the bottom, he loses the control.
So there are the marks, and of course the judges made him pay for the problems he had with his final dive in the competition. And here's the last one for David Bedard, solidly in second. He can't overtake Hayes to get first place, but this, his last dive, is generally a good one.
A back 1.5 somersault with 3.5 twists, a very difficult dive, and what a great dive he did.
Has a degree of difficulty of 3.2. That'll pull up a lot of points, keeping him solidly in second place with a spot on the team to Auckland.
We see he has a very strong jump, and he's very tight in his twisting action. He looks pretty in the air, and lots of room for the lineup. Just a little bit by on the bottom, but he'll get good scores on that.
Yes, 72 points in total for the dive. Don Webb, his coach, is happy because he hadn't really been able to train until he got to Edmonton as a result of that leg injury. He's done a remarkable job. Well, so has Bill Hayes up there for his last dive. He's over a dive in front, as a matter of fact. And this last one has a DD of 2.7. Let's see what he does. He's been most consistent.
It's a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. What a dive. That's an excellent dive with a rip entry. It's a very simple dive for the men to be doing at this point in the competition, but, you know, if you can hit it that well, it doesn't matter how simple it is. We'll see here he gets a great jump off the tower. And he's into a very tight tuck, and he comes out way up in the air and lots of room to line up and to get into that good entry.
Terrific marks. Those are the highest marks we have seen for anyone in this entire competition. That 9.5 is the highest single mark from a judge, and we hadn't seen any more 9s before. So look how convincing his victory was and how far ahead of Fournier Bedard is. So we have a chance to talk with this winner. Congratulations, Bill. Would you say that the move to Michigan was the key to this success, really?
Yeah, it definitely helped with training. We do a lot more down there twice a day than I was doing at home. But things are turning out better in our club in Etobicoke, and we're getting in twice a day. So maybe after I finish school there, I'll come back and dive at Etobicoke.
Have you ever beaten David before?
Once in preliminaries, but other than that, no. He's a great athlete, and he's great on tower, and I'm really happy that I could do that, but I'm not going to consider it, you know, something that'll always happen. He's right there behind me.
And the ladies are vying for places on the team. Mary DePiro warming up for the upcoming women's 3-meter final. And, of course, her arch rival is Barbara Bush Dauphiné. They're getting ready. It should be very, very close.
I like being able to have a life and also being able to be competitive in a sport, and I think it's possible, and I think that Canadians could be aware that it's possible to, you know, do other things and also be competitive at a world-class level in the sport.
You've had all sorts of experience, all sorts of national and internationals, but is there something special and pressury about a trial like this?
Yeah, there really is. I mean, you know, the whole idea behind the trials is that you want to get to the games and you know, compete at the Commonwealth Games, but if you don't prepare and compete well at the trials, there won't be any games. So, yeah, there's a lot of pressure at the trials.
Where are you going to go after diving?
Well, I graduated from university in '89 and I have a BA in psychology, so I'd like to pursue a career in that, maybe working with kids and counseling and stuff like that. Probably going to have a family of my own, too, and see what happens after that.
Got a pretty full life in front of you.
Hopefully, yes. Looking forward to it.
The women have done 8 of their 10 dives off the 3-meter springboard, and Mary DePiro of Thunder Bay is doing very well. Bush Dauphiné, who was the top qualifier here. Here is Mary. She's experienced now. She's 21 years of age and won both 1- and 3-meter championships at the Summer Nationals last year. She hasn't missed a dive in this competition so far.
That's an excellent dive by Mary, and it's also an extremely difficult degree of difficulty of 3.0 with a back 2.5 somersault in the pike position. We can see here that she gets a very strong jump and very quick into her pike, which is essential. Pretty looking dive in the air and a good stretch on the bottom.
And the judges liked it too, with 7.5s almost across the board. A couple of 7s in there, 67.5 points. Here's Paige Gordon. Paige, of course, was the heroine of the Canada Summer Games that we televised for you in Saskatoon last summer. The 16-year-old British Columbian won the 1-meter, the 3-meter, and the platform. But things are a lot more difficult, a lot tougher, and more stressful here.
She's doing an inward 2.5 somersault in tuck. And she does a very good job with the dive. She'll be quite pleased with the score she gets on that, Ted.
Well, her future, of course, although she's done awfully well as an age grouper since she was about 11, her future's in front of her.
We see here she gets a good jump. She's way up over the board in a nice tight tuck position and a very clean entry on the bottom.
Nice marks for that one, and she'll be happy because her 7th and 8th dives were not that good. Well, here's Laura Payne, another teenager. She is only 17, but she's diving at home in Edmonton.
And that was a reverse 2.5 somersault tuck. Very good off the board. She moved out a little bit and so had a little bit of trouble on the bottom, but it's still a very good dive for this youngster. We see here she has a strong jump, but as she comes off, she's just moving it out a little bit, so it makes it harder to control and a little bit short of the vertical on the bottom.
So she gets 6.5s and 7s from the judges. Will not be able to move up in the placements, but certainly is not going to lose any ground. Well, here is Barb, and she's been sort of fighting this, I think, pretty well all the time.
She's having a tough finals here. She wants to make the team, but she just, you know, isn't diving as sharp as she usually does. Nice start. Oh, she let that one go long on the bottom. That is, you know, so unfortunate for her. She's a much better diver than this. She'll be very disappointed with the scores on that. You see here that it looks good right off the start, but she backs it out just a little bit. And so when she lines up to go in the water, she doesn't have the control she needs.
No, she's not going to be at all happy with that or with those marks, but that's all it was worth. You can see by the look on her face. And that drops her down. Look at this. With one dive to go, she has dropped behind Laura Payne into third place. Mary is well out in front right now. So here is Mary, coached by Mitch up there in Thunder Bay, and he's just done a whale of a job with these Thunder Bay divers. She has a comfortable lead. If she puts this one in, she's on her way to Auckland to represent her country.
Yes, and this is a back 1.5 somersault with 2 1/2 twists. It's worth a degree of difficulty of 2.8. And not a bad dive, however. She backed this off from the board a little bit, so had a bit of a control problem on the bottom. We'll see here in the replay, it looks like it's going to be good, but she just pushes out a little bit off the board and loses her legs on the bottom.
However, she did have such a comfortable lead that this is not going to hurt her very much. She has 6.5s and 7s there from the judges, and congratulations all round. And here is Laura Payne. Now, Laura is ahead of Barb. So if she puts this, her last one in, it has a low DD, though, only 2.4. So she has really she's going to have to get about 8s to be sure of staying ahead of Barb Bush.
That's right. This is a back 1.5 with only 1.5 twists. And it wasn't a bad dive. However, she also went just past the vertical position on the bottom.
Let's just see what happened to her here. It's when she's entering the water.
Yes. She gets a good jump here off the board and is into a nice twisting action. However, when she lines up, she just lets her body go by the vertical instead of stretching all the way through in the bottom.
Coach Herb Llewellyn there explaining to her just what the problem was. 6.5s for that. Well, that opens up the door again for Barb, who had fallen behind after 9 dives, but this one has a degree of difficulty of 2.7, which is 3/10 higher in DD than the dive that Laura just had. So if she can get in here for 0.7s or something like that, I think she can hold on to second place and regain it.
And this is usually an excellent dive for her. She counts on it as her last dive. See how she does it. Great top and a very clean entry. However, her heels just went a little past vertical, but, you know, Ted, I think she may be able to get the scores on this. You see here, she has an excellent jump on the dive. She's into a nice tight tuck and has lots of room to line up, and she does go by the vertical just a little bit.
So those marks, because of the higher DD at 2.7 as against the 2.4, put her back into second place again. She has to be disappointed that she didn't win, as she did come in as the top qualifier. Mary DiPiero is the winner here. We have a chance to talk with her.
Mary, you've won nationals more than once, but this is a little bigger than that in some ways, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm happy to win this. It's trials, Commonwealth trials, and I'll get to go to New Zealand.
Now, it was really, I think, that second to last dive that won it for you, don't you think?
Yeah, I was happy. It was a high DD dive, and I put it in. I was really happy because the dive before I missed, so I needed to do a good one.
What did you say to yourself when you did miss that one? Because that made it terribly close then.
I tried to make myself forget it and just move on and try my other dive, but it was always in the back of my mind, and maybe that's why I did my second to last one better.
Barb, you make people very nervous when things are that close. How did you feel about it?
I felt pretty nervous myself, and actually at this point I'm kind of glad it's all over with, and you know, I'm happy that I came second, and I hope to, you know, dive a little bit better at the Commonwealth Games.
Well, there are always little bumps and bruises for divers, particularly those who compete on the tower. And here are the Gordon sisters and Anna Decision getting ready. Later on today, we'll have them competing in the 10-meter tower final. There'll be something new in Commonwealth Games diving in Auckland competition on the 1-meter springboard. Why have they added this?
Ted, it's now become an international event. It's the first year we've seen any of the divers compete internationally on it, so that's why it's in the Commonwealth Games.
Is there any real difference, though, between 1 and 3 meters?
Yes, it's much quicker going off the 1-meter board. The divers don't have as much time, so it's important they get good jumps and are very quick in the air.
You're going to see just how quick they have to be. As a matter of fact,
without our slow motion, you'd have a tough time seeing it. We'll show you. Lee J. Stifler, the Edmontonian attending Iowa State, was expected to be a contender. Well, he stayed in contention all the way through these 11 dives, at least the first 10 of the 11, but never able to move up past third place, and that's exactly where he stood here going to his last dive.
And this last dive is a forward 3.5 somersault in the tuck position. And he didn't do too bad of a job with the dive. He had a bit of a shaky takeoff.
Very powerfully built young man. Certainly has all the strength that's needed.
We see here on the hurdle, he's a little bit back from the end of the board, so it makes it difficult to get a very strong jump. But he did do a good job on that and into a nice tight tuck and a fair amount of room to come out. However, he went just a little bit past the vertical.
So that left him behind Larry Flewelling, who had been in second place all the way through, second to Mark Rourke of Point Claire.
And Larry here is doing a reverse 1.5 somersault with 2 1/2 twist. The DD on this dive is 3.0. This is a very difficult 1 meter dive, Ted.
Larry wasn't happy with his 10th dive. Let's see what he does with this one.
That's much better. He'll be pleased with the scores that he got on that dive. He had a very good jump, and he was right off the board and had an excellent lineup going into the water.
It's always nice to finish well, too, isn't it?
It sure is. We see here on the takeoff what a good hurdle position, and he gets a good jump right up over the board and into the twist. His timing is good, his positioning is good, and he had lots of room for a clean entry.
And he kept the pressure on, certainly, with his excellent last dive. He kept the pressure on this young man, Mark Rourke, who's now attending college at Alabama, and he's been the leader all the way through as we look at his last dive.
Another excellent dive by Mark. He's wanted this competition from the first dive he did right to this last dive. He's done a very good job, Ted.
Yes, Rourke's middle name here, consistency, and with this, his last dive, he clinched the gold medal on one.
Yes, and we see here an excellent takeoff, a good tight position, great twisting action, and lots of room to line up on the bottom.
It was first place for Mark Rourke, earning him his berth to Auckland.
He can give up 2 judges.
Barb Dauphiné earned her berth on the team by being second in 3 meter and was really struggling here in this 1 meter competition. Coming to this, her last dive, she had actually dropped down into 4th place, so I knew she was talking to herself.
And she did a very good job on her last dive. She needed the dive. She's a very tough competitor, and she was able to put it in, Ted.
Yes, she really did finish with a flourish.
We see here she has an excellent hurdle position and a very good jump off the board, and that gives her lots of room to be able to complete the forward 1.5 with 1 full twist.
She got 8s from some of the judges, and that dive clinched 3rd place on 1 meter for Barb.
6 points.
For 16-year-old Paige Gordon from Vancouver, this was the most critical dive of the entire Commonwealth Games trials in many ways, because if she was able to put this one in, it meant she would be second in this competition at least and earn a spot on the team. Let's see what she did.
And she certainly came up to the challenge on that dive. She did an excellent job on her back 1.5 somersault pike and was able to get the scores that she needed to move into 2nd place.
Yeah, she needed a little bit of a cushion that she had. And with the 6 1/2, a 7 from judge number 1, that enabled her to stay in 2nd place, and that 2nd place earned her berth on the team, and she seemed to know it. Well, Mary DiPiero, really the star of this competition, because she won the 3 meter. That earned her a berth, and she really hardly needed this last dive on 1 meter to win it as well and double up.
Yes, and she did an inward 1.5 somersault in the pike position. It's always been an excellent dive for Mary. She knows how to do it well and always counts on it as her last dive. And another superb job by Mary on the dive. She was very high above the board and a very graceful dive.
That's the mark of a champion, when even if you know you've won, you can put that last one in like that.
That's right, Ted. And we see here she has a great jump. It's a very graceful dive. It's pretty in the air, and she really knew what she was doing there.
Mary has really been the ladies' star of these Commonwealth Games trials in Edmonton and pointed it up with her victory in the 1 meter. Mark Rourke qualified third for the upcoming men's 3 meter final. Larry Llewellyn was in second place. Those two are getting ready to battle David Bedard in this men's 3 meter final.
I take a night course at NAIT, one of the institutes here, and lots on computers.
Now this thing, is the object first of all to make the team? Is that what you're focusing on?
Yeah, I'm not really trying to go out there and win the trials and blow them away here. Just get on the team and focus for the Commonwealth trials. Right now it's looking really tough. Lee J. Streifler, who trains in Iowa State, Mark Rourke, and Robert Barrybo have all been improving these last couple of years, and they're looking pretty tough.
The men do 11 dives off the 3 meter springboard. David Bedard led the qualifiers and is still leading with 9 dives completed in the final from his teammate Mark Rourke. Lee J. Streifler has not done what I think a few people thought he would. He's an Edmonton lad. He's 20 years of age, taking biochemistry at Iowa State.
A very good dive by Lee J. That was a forward 1.5 somersault with 3 full twists. He'll be pleased with that dive. It's one of the better ones he's put in this competition. We can see here that he gets a great hurdle and a really good jump on the takeoff. Up high above the board, right into his twist. He's very tight in his position and has lots of room to line up for a nice clean entry on the bottom.
Well, here's Mark Rourke, coached by Liz Jack when he is in Montreal at Point Claire, but he's going to university way down south in Alabama and enjoying it. And what his strength has been here, Janet, is certainly consistency.
Yes, that's true. Here he's doing a back 2.5 somersault in pike. A very nice dive on top. However, on the bottom, just before he went in the water, he lost his legs a little bit. I wonder if the judges caught that.
Well, we'll see if you can catch it here on this replay.
Here we see a nice strong takeoff here and very quick into the pike, which is important, and a good position and lots of room to line up, but just there his legs come apart before he goes in the water.
But not all the judges caught it, because he got 8s from a couple of them, probably saying to Liz, gee, we got away with that one, didn't we? That could hold him in second place depending on what Larry Llewellyn does right now. This is Larry's biggest dive with a DD of 3.3, but he really needs 8s, I think, Janet, in order to overtake Rourke again.
Yes, he does. And this is a very difficult dive. It's a reverse 1.5 somersault with 3.5 twists. The timing is so key on the takeoff on this dive. Not a bad job, but it's certainly not going to get the scores that he needs.
To catch up with Rourke again, he did need 8s.
Here we see on the takeoff, he has a good hurdle, and he gets a good jump, but he's into the twist just a little bit early, and he seems to have trouble when he comes around on the bottom of the dive, lining up and staying straight right into the water.
His coach there is his father, and 7.5s, but there were not the 8s that he really needed to overtake Rourke, and he knows it. Well, David Bedard led the qualifiers, but only by a couple of points, but has been leading all the way through, and this is a huge one for him at 3.3.
That's a pretty good job. It's the same dive we just saw Larry do, and I think David did it just a touch better.
Larry got some 7.5s, 7s, and 6s.
Here we see that he has an excellent jump off the board, and he has a very good twisting action. He gets the twist done high, and he's very tight and lines up quite well, just lets it go by a touch on the bottom.
And that does keep him in first place by 14 points over Rourke, who is still 2 points up on Larry Llewellyn. Lee J, I think, is too far back to catch up now. 11th round, and for Mark Rourke, this is critical. And it's critical for the whole competition because this is his biggest, a 3.3. If he can put this in, he'll really put the pressure not only on Llewellyn, who he leads, but also on Bedard.
A good dive on top. However, he rolled by the bottom. He didn't go in totally vertical.
Well, let's see what the judges think about it. Look again.
Here we see that he has a nice strong hurdle, and jumps very high off the board and a good position in the twisting. He has an excellent twisting action here. On the bottom, though, he just lets his legs go by a little bit past the vertical position.
But the judges, some of them weren't too upset by that. He had 8s from a couple of them, and that certainly should keep him ahead of Larry Flewelling, because that was a 3.3, and Flewelling's last dive, no matter what he does with it, has a degree of difficulty of only 2.9, so he'd really have to get 9s or 9.5 to overtake Rourke right now. But with a third-place finish here, if things stay the way they are, because Rourke and Bedard have already made the team, Larry with a third-place finish could earn a berth on the team to dive 3 meters.
Here he'll be doing a forward 1.5 somersault with 3 twists. It's very important in the twisting dives that they get a strong jump and then initiate the twist. That is an excellent dive, Ted. That's one of the best optionals I've seen him do here tonight.
Larry Flewelling getting his last dive in and doing it very well.
Here we see a very strong hurdle, and he jumps up high off the board and into an excellent twisting position. He's tight right through to the toes, and he has lots of room to line up, and a very clean entry on the bottom.
And that was his best dive of the entire competition. He saved it for the last. Straight 8s except for one 8.5. Well, David Bedard has been leading all the way through, but he could lose this competition to his teammate, Mark Rourke, who got a very, very big dive.
Now, a nice dive on top, however, he did not control the bottom. He went long, he didn't go right in vertically. He's going to be disappointed with those scores.
Well, he can't be any worse than second.
Here we see he's strong off the board, and it looks very good here, but when he goes to line up, he ducks his head and just rolls by the bottom a little bit.
And the judges caught it. He had to have more points than that. He needed over 62 points to stay ahead of Rourke, and he has not been able to do that with his last dive. Flewelling and Bedard there, who were third and second. Rourke is the winner of this on his very last dive from Bedard and Larry Flewelling. But they'll all go. Here's the winner. Mark, you won by 1 point on your last dive. Is that the way you like to do things?
Oh, it was certainly close. Gosh, I had no idea going into that round that it was that close on the last dive. I was just fighting for second place right there because it was so close between me and Larry. And then I guess with the DD on the last dive, it turned out all right.
Well, Larry, it was quite a test, but a second place on the 1 and a third place on the 3 puts you on the team. I don't think you were actually peaked for this, though, were you?
No, not really. I haven't been working on all the finer details such as entries, and I've just been working on board work and repetitive dives. I think we're going to work a lot more on doing entries, getting the RIP entry for the Commonwealth Games.
Anna Decision is an Edmonton native diving now at home for these trials, but she attends the University of Toronto, and here she and Coach Skip Phoenix talk things over.
That any diver gets is how do you learn a dive off a 10-meter tower? Today, Pierre Valcarcel from the University of Toronto, coached by Skip Phoenix, is going to show us from the 10-meter tower how he learns a back 1.5 somersault with 2 1/2 twists.
Tight.
The diver starts learning this dive on the trampoline.
That's great. And now for the 2 1/2 twists. That's the one we want, and that's the one we want to look the best.
The mechanics of the dive must be soundly mastered here before moving to the tower.
Good twist, good twist. You rushed just a touch over the top of your shoulder. Another 2 1/2 twister, because I think you're just a little sloppy in the arms at the top.
Once the coach and diver are both confident the basic skills have been mastered, he is then ready to try the dive off the 5-meter board.
All right, that is going around really well. What we want to do now is take the dive to 5 meters, and we'll go through the progression again. The purpose is simply takeoff. We're removing the fear of taking them up to 10 meters. And so what we're doing here is we call it a lead up. And a lead up, in my opinion, has to be done well.
Once on the 5-meter tower, they practice the basic skills again.
Now the purpose is to add a twister to it for the back 2 1/2 twister onto his feet. I'll give him bubbles because it's a lot easier to land in the soft bubbles at this point in time for this diver especially. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
Landing in the bubble machine, what does that feel like?
It's shaving cream. Just landing in a pile of shaving cream. It's a little harder, but it's basically that feeling. And I have confidence in diving into them because I know I won't hurt myself. Before I start a new dive, I make sure I have the basics right, the proper mechanics, and making sure that I have the confidence to go up to 10 meter and do that dive.
When the diver's developing his list and developing the confidence in himself, that's the psychology, and knowing that his ability and the coach's ability all combine to make a successful attempt. If a person learning new dives is very unsuccessful often, then suddenly you will have a diver up there that can't go and won't go. Okay, Pierre, this is the first time. On this one, you just want to be as confident, as tight as you were on 5 meter. Go. Oh, I think we've got it right down. That looks great.
The coach will have the diver attempt the dive into the bubbles a few times. Once the coach is confident the diver is ready, the diver must try the dive again with no bubbles or assistance. The coach-diver trust is essential. The coach is really the eyes of the diver during the learning process. Pierre has done a great job learning this dive. From here, he'll practice it over the next couple of months, and it'll then become part of his list of 10-meter dives.
Well, Janet, these women, of course, have all been through exactly the same thing before they get into competition off that 10-meter tower. And we've got some surprises here, particularly Angela Borthwick from the Pan Am Divers in Winnipeg. She is in front right now, and she's in front because she has been consistent all the way through. She has not missed a dive. Maybe she shouldn't know how good she's doing, how close she is to winning this thing. That could put her off, but she has really been exciting.
Oh, she has. She's been diving wonderfully in this meet. She's here doing a back 1.5 somersault with 2 1/2 twist. The DD is worth 2.8. That's a very nice dive by Angela. She'll be happy with the scores that she gets on that.
She looks happy, and well, she might. Want to have another look at this.
We see here she gets a very strong jump up quickly into the twist, and nice position, and is able to line up on the entry and go straight into the water right on the vertical position.
She should be really happy with those marks, that 8 in there. She is happy. Well, Kelly Vrooman of Thunder Bay has also been a big surprise. She's an 18-year-old who's just about to enter Lakehead University. She will for the semester beginning in February, and she has been consistent too, except up her last dive, she didn't really blow it, but she had problems. She's got to come back with this one, which has a DD of 2.9.
Yes, she really needs this dive. Oh, that's not going to do it. She's going to be very disappointed with that.
She had really been in contention, but now 2 in a row she's been unable to stand the pressure, I think.
Yes, you see here on the takeoff, she doesn't get into the pipe quite quick enough. She's a little bit low off the tower, and as she comes out of the dive, she doesn't have her usual height, so she ends up very short of the vertical position.
So she has fallen back definitely with those marks from our panel of judges. And here's Anna Decision, who has not really been herself, I don't think. Earlier on with some of the easier dives she was, but she's struggling here.
And she's doing a reverse 2 1/2 somersault in the tuck position. Oh, the judges are not going to like that. She didn't jump away from the tower. She was very close to the tower, plus she went over on the bottom. The judges are not allowed to score the dive high if she's close. We can see here she just goes straight up without any forward movement, and she clears the tower, but it's not a very good dive for Anna at all.
Oh, no, it isn't, and the judges are making her pay. Look at that, 4 1/2s, 5 1/2s, a 6 is the top mark, and she's not going to move up on that. So she did not. As a matter of fact, she is in 3rd place, a point behind Vrooman, and Borthwick seems to be in command here. at the present time as we go to the last round of dives. And here's Paige Gordon. She was the star this summer of the Canada Games in Saskatoon, won 3 gold medals there, but things are a lot different when you come to a Commonwealth trial.
That's true. There's a lot more pressure here at this meet. She's doing a back 2.5 somersault in the pike position, usually an excellent dive.
Paige is only 16 years of age.
She'll be pleased with that as a last dive. It was a very pretty looking dive. She'll get good scores on it and a very nice bottom on the dive when in the water cleanly.
And she showed a lot of moxie by coming back with that one.
She sure did. You can see here she gets a strong takeoff and into a very tight pike position, and she has lots of room to look and stretch for the entry on the bottom.
So she'll be very happy with those 7.5s that she receives. And there's Bashi, her coach, former Chinese national coach, now with the divers in British Columbia. Well, here's Angela, who really has this thing in her hip pocket. If she can put her last dive in, she has a surprising big lead. And this is her very last dive in the competition. We're pretty close to her.
And this is usually an excellent dive for her. Oh, no. That is so unfortunate. She had the competition, in hand, and she just, I don't know if the adrenaline gets going sometimes, and she just overspun in the dive.
What did I do? She's saying, well, here we'll have a look and see.
We see here she's got a great takeoff, good position in the air, nice tight tuck. However, when she comes out far too late, and so she can't go in vertical. She's already past the vertical.
And there's Coach Jim Lambie. And you've been in that position a few times when you were diving.
I can remember what it feels like.
Well, now here's Kelly, and she has a chance to make a berth on the Commonwealth Games team if she can put this, her last dive, in for big, big marks.
And this is a back 1.5 with 2.5 twists. An excellent job on the dive. A good jump, nice position in the air, and a fairly clean entry on the bottom.
Well, I would say on the strength of this that first, second, and third places are much undecided.
Yes, we see here a good takeoff, and look at her how tight she is in the air. She's twisting nicely, and a good stretch for the bottom. Almost a rip entry, not quite one.
Well, she did get a couple of 8s, and that certainly will help her. It's going to be very, very close, and a decision really must put her last dive in. I think she has to get at least 8s on this. If she's to get up into second place, she could still win it with a very, very good dive.
And she's doing the same dive that we just saw Kelly perform a minute ago. An excellent dive, Ted. That was absolutely fabulous. She's such an elegant and classy diver. She really put it in there.
Well, she saved her best for the very last. You can tell with that smile that she knows it.
And here we see what a strong jump she has. And look at the position in the air. She's very tight, and she has lots of room, and the entry is incredible. It's just one of those rip, bubbly little entries.
Look at those 8.5. I think it's going to be enough. There's Skip Phoenix, who's also a very, very happy coach. I think that is going to be enough. Certainly to get second. Oh, look, it is. It gives her first place over Borthwick, and Borman could not quite catch up. Let's talk to Anna Decision, the winner. Anna, it was very, very close. What were you thinking when you went up to do your last dive, because you were going last and you knew what you had to do?
I just thought, if there's ever a time I need a good dive, this is it. And I just went and thought, I'm going to jump to this as high as I can and hope for the best.
After you put it in, did you think it was enough for the win?
It felt like a good entry, and I knew I had good scores, although I didn't really know how close it was. I didn't know what the situation was, but I was happy with the last dive and was just going to wait and see.
So the tension of the trials is over, and Anna will be joined on what I think is a very strong Canadian team by Angela, Barb, Mary, and Paige. And the men's team may be the strongest that we've had in almost 20 years, with Bedard, Llewellyn, Fournier, Bill Hayes, and Mark Rourke. Without question, this is the strongest diving team in the Commonwealth. Janet, we've always been good with the ladies, but I think this is about the strongest men's team I've seen in years.
That's correct, Ted. I think the men that we have performing for us at these Commonwealth Games are better than I've ever seen before. I expect that this may be the first time we get a gold medal out of one of those male divers.
And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see certainly 2 medals in one discipline, and it's not out of the question they could sweep.
That's right. I'd hoped that we could sweep aboard, and we're definitely going to be able to medal, and hopefully that gold medal will be there too for one of those men.
A very, very strong team, I think, in all three disciplines, men and women. We'll see on our exclusive CBC coverage from Auckland early in the new year. But now from the trials in Edmonton for Janet Nutter, I'm Ted Reynolds saying so long.
Happy New Year, Canada!
And we hope it has been a very happy New Year and will continue to be for our Canadian diving team in Auckland when they will compete for Canada in just over 2 weeks when CBC's exclusive coverage of the New Zealand Commonwealth Games begins on January 23rd with a prime-time preview of the Games.